German Shepherd puppy keeps following. Police officer. What she discovers. Will break your heart. The snow had come early to Silver Pine, drifting across the two-lane road like the whole valley was exhaling smoke. Officer Logan Pierce had driven this route 100 times, but that morning felt different. Too quiet. Too still. Even the mountains looked like they were holding their breath. He almost didn't see the small shape in the snow. A stumble of movement. Then a second one. Logan eased the patrol car to a stop, heart thudding in a way he hated. Something in the air told him this wasn't going to be a routine call. The puppy appeared in the mirror first. A tiny German Shepherd, soaked and shivering, dragging one paw behind him as he tried to keep up with the slowing cruiser. Logan stepped out, boots sinking in the powder. The pup kept coming. Determined. Desperate. Too young to understand fear, yet carrying it in every step. He crouched down, slowly, palms forward so he wouldn't spook him. "Where's your owner, kid?" The puppy stopped inches away. His ribs showed through his damp fur, icicles clung to his whiskers. But it was the eyes that froze Logan more than the cold. Those eyes weren't just scared. They were pleading, searching, as if asking him to finish a journey someone else started. When Logan reached out, the puppy didn't bite, but he let out a low, shaking growl. Not at Logan. Not at the touch. At something behind him. Logan followed the line of the growl and saw it, a streak of dark red cutting through the white, like someone had spilled a secret across the landscape. A trail of blood leading toward the tree line. Fresh, bright, and dragged, not dripped. The pup staggered closer, nudging Logan's shin, then looked back towards the forest, whining. He wasn't lost. He was trying to lead. Logan grabbed his radio. "Dispatch, I've got an injured animal and possible evidence of a disturbance near Route 12. Requesting backup to search the area." The radio crackled with static. Wind swallowed the rest. No confirmation. No answer. The storm was thickening, turning the world into a muted blur. He looked back down. The pup placed a tiny paw on Logan's boot, like claiming him, like choosing him. "All right, I'm with you." Logan picked him up. The puppy weighed almost nothing, but his body trembled with a deep, instinctive fear. As Logan held him, the pup twisted suddenly, staring over Logan's shoulder, ears flattened. A small, broken howl rose from his throat. Not a cry for help, a cry of warning. The wind carried another sound, a crunch of branches deeper in the woods, heavy, measured. Logan turned sharply. Movement between the pines. A figure? A shadow? He couldn't tell. He tucked the puppy against his chest and stepped towards the blood trail, just enough to see where it started. At the edge of the forest, the snow dipped into a shallow trench where something had been dragged. The puppy whimpered, pushing his nose against Logan's coat. His breath came fast and sharp, not from fear of the cold, but from recognition. Whatever happened here, this pup had seen it. Logan felt it too. A shift, a tightening under his ribs. This wasn't just an injured stray. Someone had wanted this little dog gone. Someone had hurt something bigger, something the pup was bound to. Then he noticed a second set of marks among the drag trail. Small prints, paw prints, but not from the puppy. Larger, adult. The pattern told a story. The mother had resisted, fought back, tried to shield her pup until she couldn't fight anymore. The trail ended abruptly near a cluster of rocks. It didn't continue forward, it dropped. Straight down a narrow ravine hidden under the snow. The wind howled through the gap like a warning, or a confession. Logan tightened his grip on the pup. His pulse hammered against the cold air. Someone did this. Someone was close. Someone might still be watching. Behind him, the puppy's ears twitched. He pushed his face into Logan's jacket, as if bracing for the moment he knew would come next. Logan exhaled, slow and steady. "It's okay, buddy. I've got you now." But even as he said it, he felt the truth settle in the pit of his stomach. Whatever this little shepherd had survived, it was only the beginning. Logan pushed open the door of the Silver Pine Sheriff's office with his shoulder, the puppy tucked against his chest like a fragile heartbeat he wasn't ready to put down. The station smelled of old coffee and wet boots. The morning shift hadn't arrived yet, so the place felt hollow, like a shell waiting for its pulse. He set the little shepherd on a folded blanket near the heater. Steam lifted from the pup's fur as the warmth seeped in. The puppy shook, sneezed once, then looked up at Logan with those same searching eyes. "All right, kid," he whispered. "Let's figure out who you are." The pup let out a soft bark, not at Logan but at the door. Then he bolted toward it, claws clicking on the linoleum. He pawed at the bottom edge, scratching, whining, glancing back at Logan as if urging him to open it. "You want to go back out there?" Logan frowned. It was 20 degrees and dropping. But the puppy wouldn't stop. His whole body angled towards the direction of the forest they had just left, as if something inside him still lived among those shadows. Logan pulled up a chair and typed a quick note into the incident log. Found German Shepherd pup, possibly connected to disturbance on Route 12. Appears traumatized. Unidentified blood trail present. Before he finished the sentence, the puppy let out a sharp bark. Then another. Logan looked up. The pup wasn't looking at the door anymore. He was staring out the window, ears locked forward, body rigid. Outside, an old pickup rolled into view, tires crunching across the icy parking lot. The back was piled with trash bags and scrap metal. The town's sanitation contractor, Carl Griggs, making his early rounds. The instant the truck's metal latch clanged, the puppy flinched so hard he fell backward. Then he scrambled up, barking wildly, tail tucked, eyes wide with something deeper than fear. It was memory. Raw and broken. Logan stood, gently blocking the pup from the glass. "Easy, Axel." The name left his mouth before he even realized he'd chosen it. Axel. Something sturdy. Something that sounded like a survivor. The puppy stilled, as if accepting the name like it was the first thing that had ever belonged to him. When the truck left, Axel's barking didn't stop. He paced in frantic circles, then sprinted back to the door again, scratching, whining, pulling at the air with his tiny paws, as if the truth itself was on the other side. Logan exhaled, tension settling under his ribs. "What did they do to you?" A soft chime rang at the entrance. The heavy wooden door pushed open, and Mrs. Kinley stepped inside. 80 years old, lived alone near the Ridge Road. Known for two things: feeding every stray cat in Silver Pine and knowing everything that happened past sundown. She took one look at Axel and went pale. "Oh, my Lord," she whispered. "Not another one." Logan's eyes narrowed. "Another what?" She clutched the collar of her coat, knuckles trembling. "For weeks. Someone's been throwing things into Dead Man's Ravine at night. Heavy things. I thought it was trash. But then I heard it last Thursday. A whimper, like an animal crying. Axel crept toward her, nose low, tail still. He sniffed her boots, then stepped behind Logan, watching her from the safety of his shadow. She pressed a hand to her chest. "That pup, that look on him. He saw it, didn't he?" Logan didn't answer, but the way Axel pressed closer said enough. Mrs. Kinley lowered her voice. "Be careful with that ravine. Folks say the wind carries voices there." Logan felt Axel tense again. He knelt, placing a hand gently behind the pup's ears. "Did you lose someone out there?" Axel looked at him. Not a random glance, a connection. As if he understood the question in a way a creature that small shouldn't. Then, without warning, Axel tore away and sprinted across the station, heading straight for the evidence room door. He scratched at it, barking with everything in him. Logan hurried over. Axel wasn't just reacting, he was leading. Inside the evidence room, on the bottom shelf, was a crate of items recovered from around the forest in the last month. Broken traps, abandoned tools, random trash, and a scrap of fabric caught on a piece of barbed wire collected 10 days earlier. Dark brown, stiff with dried blood. Axel froze when he saw it. Not barking now, not whining. He walked toward it slowly, then lowered his head until his nose touched the metal rim. His whole body shuddered. Logan swallowed hard. "You recognize that, don't you?" A low sound came from Axel's throat. Not anger, not fear. Something purer. Grief. Before Logan could react, the station lights flickered. A gust of wind pushed against the front door, hard enough to rattle the glass. The storm from the ridge was rolling down early. Mrs. Kinley backed away towards the exit. Whatever did that to his family may still be in those woods. Logan felt the truth settle like weight across his shoulders. Axel wasn't just a lost pup. He was a witness. A survivor of something the town didn't want to look at. And the one thing Logan couldn't shake, even as the snow thickened outside, was this. Axel hadn't just followed him because he needed help. He had followed him because he chose him. Because somewhere in the dark, something was unfinished. And the smallest shepherd in Silverpine wasn't going to stop until the truth was found. The storm cleared by mid-morning, leaving the sheriff's station wrapped in a cold, bright silence. Logan stepped out back, letting the fresh air cut through the tension of the last few hours. Axel bounded beside him, paws sinking into the thin crust of snow, tail giving a hopeful twitch. For a moment he looked like any other playful puppy. But Logan knew better. There was purpose in the way Axel scanned the trees, nose lifted, body alert. "Go on, kid, get some air." Axel trotted a few steps, then froze. His ears snapped forward. Before Logan could call his name, the little shepherd bolted towards the tree line, moving with a certainty that didn't belong to a dog his age. "Axel, hey, slow down." But the puppy didn't stop, didn't hesitate. He disappeared into the shadowed forest as if he had been born inside it. Logan sprinted after him, branches scraping his jacket, breath burning in the cold. Each time he thought he lost Axel, a flash of tan and black fur appeared between the pines, guiding him deeper. The forest was quiet. Too quiet. Snow muted every sound except the crunch under Logan's boots and Axel's quick, determined steps. Logan felt something in the air. Not just cold. A heaviness. A history. Axel slowed as they approached a clearing. A small structure sat hunched between the trees. A cabin, barely standing. Roof sagging. Windows boarded from the inside. The kind of place people forgot on purpose. Axel lowered his head and let out a soft, trembling whine. Logan approached carefully, hand hovering near the holster out of instinct, though he doubted anyone lived there. The air around the cabin smelled stale, like wet wood and old fear. The door hung crooked, one hinge rusted through. Logan nudged it with his boot. It opened with a groan. Axel stepped inside first. What hit Logan wasn't a smell, but a feeling. The space carried the echo of something that had happened too fast, too violently. Dust floated in the broken beam of light. On the ground lay a chewed rope, a snapped metal clasp. Scratches gouged into the floorboards as if something had fought until its last breath. Logan crouched. The claw marks were deep, fresh enough that the wood hadn't faded. Axel moved to the corner. A pile of torn dog food bags lay scattered, flattened by desperate paws. Logan picked one up. The expiration date was recent. Someone had brought these here not long ago. Then he saw it. Under the edge of an overturned crate, half buried beneath the dirt, was a collar. Larger than the one Axel wore. Dark leather. weathered from years of use, but still unmistakably intact, a grown dog's collar. Logan lifted it gently. Axel stepped forward, nose trembling as he sniffed it. The reaction was immediate. Axel let out a low moan, then pressed his head against the collar. His paws moved anxiously, scraping the ground, digging at the dirt as if trying to uncover something that wasn't there anymore. Logan swallowed hard. This was where Axel's mother had been kept. But something didn't add up. The cabin showed signs of a struggle, yes, but not of an accident. Someone brought food. Someone tied a dog here. Someone cared enough to feed her, but not enough to let her go. Why? A sudden sound snapped Logan out of his thoughts, a branch cracking behind the cabin. Axel jerked his head up, body stiff, tail down. He positioned himself between Logan and the sound, a tiny guardian ready to face whatever waited outside. Logan moved to the doorway. "Hello? Sheriff's office. Anyone out there?" No answer, only the wind shifting through the trees. Then another sound, softer, a faint metallic clink. Logan scanned the forest shadows. His stomach tightened. Someone had been here recently, maybe still was. He stepped out of the cabin, letting his eyes adjust to the brightness. Tracks crisscrossed the snow, human and animal, some fading, some fresh. But one set caught his eye, boot prints leading toward the slope behind the cabin. Not walking, running. Axel sniffed the snow near the prints, took one trembling step forward and looked back at Logan with a plea in his eyes. "Please follow. Please understand." Logan knelt beside him. "This is where she was, huh? Your mum." Axel touched the collar still in Logan's hand with his nose, then pushed his face into Logan's chest, letting out a small, broken sound that made the forest feel colder. "Okay," Logan whispered. "We'll keep going." But as he stood, a realization chilled him more than the wind. The tracks didn't lead away from danger. They led toward the ravine, toward the place Mrs. Kinley said people threw things into the dark. Axel pawed at the snow again, anxious, insistent. Logan looked at him, then at the cabin behind them, then at the deep woods ahead. Someone had kept Axel's mother here. Someone strong enough to chain her. Someone cruel enough to drag her away. But someone else had been running. Not the dog, a person, and not away from the cabin. Away from something far worse. The truth began to take shape like a shadow behind the trees. Axel wasn't leading him to a memory. He was leading him to a witness. Or a grave. Either way, the forest had stopped being silent. It was beginning to whisper. The cold sharpened as Logan and Axel climbed the slope, behind the abandoned cabin. Pines creaked under the wind. Snow shifted under their boots and paws. The deeper they went, the more Logan felt as if the forest itself was holding something back, keeping quiet out of fear rather than peace. Axel stopped suddenly. His ears twitched, his nose lifted to the air. Then he growled, low and steady. "What is it, buddy?" Axel didn't answer with sound this time. He turned his head sharply toward a narrow service road cutting through the woods. A noise followed, tires on frozen gravel. Logan stepped between the trees and saw an old green pickup parked about 30 yards away, engine idling. The driver's door stood open. A man emerged from behind the truck, carrying a crate. Logan recognized him from the edges of town. Evan Hart, 50-something. Lived alone in a shack near the quarry. Fair reputation for keeping to himself. Strange reputation for everything else. Evan's head jerked up when he saw Logan. Surprise flashed across his face. Then something else. Alarm. "Sheriff's office." He dropped the crate faster than he meant to. It thudded into the snow. Logan raised a hand in greeting. "Morning. Didn't expect to see anyone up here." Evan wiped his palms on his coat. His voice came out too fast. "Just getting rid of some scrap. Nothing illegal." Axel stepped beside Logan. body tense. His fur rose slightly along his spine. His eyes locked on the pickup, not the man. Evan took one look at Axel and backed up a full step. "Get that dog away from me." "He's safe," Logan said. "Just a pup." "Pup or not, keep him back." Logan frowned. He had seen people uncomfortable around dogs, but this wasn't discomfort. It was fear. Evan's breathing shifted. His hands trembled. His eyes kept darting not at Axel, but at the truck. Axel lifted his nose again. Then he bolted. "Axel!" The puppy charged straight towards the pickup, barking with a fury Logan hadn't heard from him yet. Not confused barking, not scared barking. He knew that truck. Or knew what it meant. Evan swore and tried to intercept, but Logan stepped in. "Let him sniff. If it's nothing, it's nothing." Evan froze mid-step, jaw tightening. "No, keep him back." Axel reached the truck and stopped at the rear. He sniffed once, then again. His small body went still. Logan saw the shift. Saw it in the way Axel pressed into the snow, inhaling like he was trying to pull the scent out of the metal. Then the pup snapped into a bark so sharp the trees seemed to flinch. Logan came closer. "Easy, Axel." But the puppy wouldn't stop. He lunged at the tailgate, paws scraping the cold steel, barking so hard his voice cracked. Logan's eyes drifted along the truck bed. That was when he saw it. A dent, a deep, sharp indentation along the inside wall of the bed, not caused from the outside. It bulged outward as if something had been inside that truck, something that fought, something strong. Logan touched the dent. The metal was warped, edges jagged, like claws, or kicks, or both. Evan stepped between him and the truck. "I said, keep that dog away." Logan straightened. "You want to tell me what happened here?" "Nothing happened, just old metal. That dent is fresh." Evan's jaw twitched. "Get away from my truck, officer." Logan stepped closer. "What were you hauling?" "Scrap." The dry answer came too quickly. Axel circled the truck again. He stopped near the back corner, nose pressed against the metal latch. When the wind shifted, Logan caught a faint scent too. Something musky. Animal, mixed with something darker, like rust or dried blood. Logan turned back to Evan. "You didn't happen to see any dogs around here lately, did you?" Evan's eyes flickered. "No." Axel barked once, loud and accusing, as if calling the lie out himself. Logan studied the man. Evan wasn't a killer. Logan had seen enough of those to know the signs. But Evan was hiding something, and whatever it was, Axel knew it first. Logan softened his voice. "Look, we're just trying to figure out what happened to his mother. There's a blood trail near the ravine, signs of a struggle in that cabin. You know this area better than anyone. If there's danger, people need to know." For a split second, something broke through Evan's expression. Regret. Then fear smothered it again. "I'm telling you, I don't know anything. Leave it alone, Pierce. Some things up here should stay buried." He turned to get into the truck. Logan stepped forward. "Evan, if you know something, now is the time to speak up." The man paused with one foot in the cab. "You're stirring up things that don't want to be stirred." Before Logan could answer, Axel lunged again and let out a sound Logan had never heard from a puppy. A deep, wounded howl, a call for someone who wasn't coming back. The wind carried it, the forest absorbed it, and for one haunting second, the mountains answered with a faint echo. Evan slammed the truck door shut. "Whatever you think you're going to find, you won't like it." He drove away fast, wheels spinning snow into a blinding cloud. Axel chased after him until Logan called him back. Logan knelt beside the pup. "What did you smell, buddy?" Axel didn't look at him. He stared down the road where the truck had vanished. His small chest rose and fell with a shaky breath. He pawed once at the snow. Then he nudged Logan's hand with his nose, pushing him gently toward the forest again, not toward safety, toward the truth. Logan stood slowly. He felt the shift, the tension tightening around the valley, the storm that wasn't weather. Axel had recognized something in that truck, something alive once, something taken, something that had clawed to escape. And Evanhart wasn't just afraid of Axel. He was afraid of what the dog remembered. The forest, for the first time, didn't feel empty anymore. It felt watched. By nightfall, the storm had settled over Silver Pine like a living thing. Snow hammered the windows of the small station, wind clawing at the siding as if trying to force its way in. Logan moved through the quiet building, checking the doors, but his attention kept drifting back to the corner where Axel lay curled on a blanket. The puppy hadn't touched his food all day. He just stared at the back door, the one facing the forest, ears barely twitching whenever the wind shifted. The storm didn't scare him. What scared him was waiting. Logan knelt beside him. "You've got to eat something." Axel didn't look away from the door. It wasn't stubbornness. It was grief. And Logan felt it like a weight in the air. The way Axel's body stayed rigid. The way his breaths came shallow. The way his eyes never blinked long, as if terrified he'd miss the moment his mother returned from the shadows she'd been taken into. Logan sighed. "You want back out there, don't you?" Axel finally turned toward him. One slow glance, not pleading, not demanding, just a quiet truth. Logan stood. "Fine. You're coming with me." He grabbed his coat, clipped a makeshift lead onto Axel's collar, and stepped out into the storm. The wind bit through fabric and fur alike. Axel pushed against it without hesitation, tiny paws sinking deep as he pulled Logan toward the dark wall of pines. They moved in silence, the snow swallowing their footsteps. Axel led with purpose, nose close to the ground despite the storm covering most tracks. The puppy wasn't following prints. He was following memory. They reached the abandoned cabin again. It looked even more broken under the storm's weight. Logan swept his flashlight across the desolate room. Axel didn't pause. He darted out the back, towards the slope. "Axel, slow down." The pup ignored him, tail stiff, head low. The snow thickened, making it hard for Logan to keep him in sight, but the barks guided him forward. Then Axel stopped. Logan caught up, chest burning from the climb. The flashlight beam struck something unexpected, a narrow opening between two rock shelves, half covered by fallen branches and heavy snowdrift. A natural crevice. The wind funneling through it carried a strange sound. A low hum, almost like breath. Axel walked toward it slowly. He sniffed the ground, then dragged his paw across the snow, scraping down to the dark earth beneath. Logan followed with the flashlight. His breath caught. The snow around the entrance wasn't just disturbed. It was torn up, clawed. Something, or someone, had tried to hold on here. The marks went deep, jagged, frantic. Axel let out a soft whine and placed his paw directly on one of the scratches, as if saying, this was hers. Logan crouched, studying the scene. She fought here. Axel let out a quiet, broken sound, a sound that belonged to an animal who knew love and loss far too early. Logan reached out to touch the edge of a deep furrow when his radio cracked to life. "Pierce, respond. Now." He straightened, cold rushing deeper than the wind. "Go ahead. This is Chief Rowan. You're to clear out of the ridge immediately. Citizen complaint says, you're pestering Evanhart again." Logan's jaw tensed. "With respect, Chief, I found something out here, evidence of a struggle, and Axel is reacting to it. Strongly." The radio hissed. "Evan filed an official report an hour ago. Claims you're harassing him. If he pushes this further, the department could face a lawsuit. You are ordered to disengage. Leave the woods. Now." Do not go near Hart or his property again. Logan stared into the dark, into the crevice that breathed cold air and secrets. His hand tightened on the radio. Chief, I think we're close to finding out what happened to the dog's mother. Maybe more than that. Rowan's voice hardened. I said, disengage. Do not make this personal. Axel barked sharply at the radio, sensing the shift. He stood between Logan and the forest, eyes pleading, body shaking with cold and urgency. Logan lowered the radio slowly. Copy that. But he didn't stand up, didn't move away. He looked at Axel. They want us to walk away from this. Axel pressed his nose against Logan's knee, whimpering once. It wasn't a request. It was a vow that he wouldn't leave this place until the truth was uncovered. Another gust of icy wind slammed through the trees, howling down the ravine like a warning. Or a memory. Logan's breath clouded in front of him. Every instinct in his training said follow orders. Keep your job. Keep your reputation clean. But another instinct, older and deeper, whispered louder. A creature had fought for her life here, fought to save her pup, and the world had buried the evidence beneath snow and silence. Logan brushed his hand over Axel's head. I know what they want me to do. Axel stared up at him with those same raw, searching eyes he'd had on the roadside, the look of someone who'd lost everything except hope. Logan stood. But I'm not leaving you. Or her. The storm roared, swallowing the words almost as soon as he spoke them, but Axel heard. Axel understood. The pup nudged forward, leading him closer to the crevice. Logan followed. He had made his choice. Not the safe one. Not the ordered one. The right one. The kind that turned a lost puppy into a partner, and a silent forest into a battlefield of truth. Somewhere below them, in the darkness of the ravine, the real story waited. And Logan wasn't turning back. The storm had become a wall of white by the time Logan realized Axel was gone. The back door hung half open, snow blowing in across the floor like a trail. Axel's small paw prints led into the darkness, already filling with fresh flakes. Logan grabbed his coat and flashlight, heart pounding. Not again. Not alone. He followed the trail out of town, through the silent streets, past the shuttered diner and the frozen creek. The wind erased Axel's tracks faster than Logan could find them, but every few yards he'd hear it. A distant bark carried thin on the storm. A plea, a warning, a call he couldn't ignore. He pushed deeper into the woods, lungs burning, until a break in the trees revealed the northern cliffs, a jagged scar of stone cutting through the forest. Dead Man's Ravine. Locals whispered about it in the same breath as old ghost tales, but Logan now knew the truth was far worse than anything imagined. Axel stood at the edge of the cliff, his tiny body silhouetted against the swirling storm, tail rigid, stance unsteady. He lifted his head and howled, not the frantic cry from before. A long, trembling sound that reached into the ravine and bounced back hollow. Logan approached slowly. Axel. Come here, buddy. Axel didn't move. He pressed his nose to the ground near the edge, then backed up, whining. Logan aimed his flashlight downward. The beam hit the rock face. Scratches. Long, deep, desperate scratches. Not from a person. From an animal. Strong. Adult. Fighting gravity. Fighting for life. Fighting for her pups. Logan crouched, brushing snow away from the edge. More claw marks appeared, crisscrossing each other, telling a story without a voice. A story of terror and resistance. A mother who refused to let go until she had no strength left. He felt his chest tighten. She tried to climb. Axel nudged Logan's hand, then lowered his head, ears flat. His small body trembled, but he didn't look away from the ravine. Logan shone the light downward again. Then he saw it. A scrap of dark leather caught on a frozen branch halfway down, the remains of a collar, torn, bloodied, and below that, barely visible through the heavy snow, lay a large shape covered in ice and drift. A dog's silhouette, still, silent. The storm had buried most of her. But the truth was obvious. Axel's mother had died there. Logan's throat tightened. He whispered softly, "I'm sorry, little guy." Axel stepped forward and placed his paw gently on the rock where the scratches began, as if acknowledging the fight she had made, as if promising he wouldn't let her die forgotten. But something else caught Logan's eye. Near the base of the cliff, partially frozen into the snow, was a corner of blue tarp. Not just any tarp. The same kind Evan Hart used in the back of his truck. Logan remembered the dent inside the truck bed, the metallic scent, Axel's violent reaction, the pieces connected. The tarp had been used to move her, not gently, not willingly. Footsteps crunched behind him. Logan spun around, flashlight raised. Evan Hart stood there, coat soaked, breath ragged. He didn't look angry. He looked defeated. Years older than he had that morning. Logan stepped forward. "Evan, what happened here?" Evan lifted his hands, palms open. "I'm not here to fight you." "Then why are you here?" Evan's eyes shifted to Axel. When he spoke, his voice cracked. "Because that pup deserves the truth, and I'm tired of carrying it." Logan waited. Evan drew in a shaking breath. "It wasn't me who hurt her. I found her. Injured. Badly. Someone tossed her out of a cage at the quarry. Like she was trash. She was still alive when I found her. Barely." Logan felt a cold deeper than the storm. "Who did it?" Evan shook his head. "A man moving dogs through the ridge. Illegal breeder. Mean as hell. I used to work with him years ago. He threatened to put me in the ravine if I talked." Logan clenched his fists. "So instead, you hid it." Evan lowered his gaze. "I tried to lift her into my truck. She panicked, broke loose, and ran. Straight toward this cliff. I couldn't stop her. She fought me. She fought everything. I didn't push her. But she was terrified, lost, hurt. And the snow... God, the snow made it worse." He gestured weakly at the frozen scratches on the rock. "I saw her try to climb back up. She slipped. I watched her fall, and I didn't go down. I didn't do anything. I was a coward." Axel stepped closer to Evan, sniffing cautiously. Evan flinched, then sank to his knees. "I'm sorry, little guy. I'm so damn sorry." For a moment, all Logan heard was the storm, the wind pushing grief across the cliff edge. Axel looked at Evan, then walked back to Logan's side, pressing against his boot. A choice made. Logan tightened his jaw. "You're coming with me. You're giving a statement. And you're telling me everything about this breeder." Evan nodded without argument. "I will. I can't carry this anymore." Logan took one last look at the ravine, at the snow-covered shape below, at the prints Axel had left at the edge, at the scratches telling the final moments of a dog who fought to protect her children. Then he spoke quietly. "This isn't where her story ends." Axel responded with a soft bark. Not broken this time. Not lost. A promise. The truth wasn't buried anymore, and the smallest shepherd in Silverpine had dragged it back into the light. The storm had calmed by the time Logan escorted Evan into the station, but the silence that followed carried a weight heavier than the blizzard. Evan walked with his shoulders slumped, soaked boots scraping across the floor. Axel trotted beside Logan, small but purposeful, as though he knew this moment mattered. Inside the interview room, Logan set a bowl of water down for Axel and turned to Evan. "We start now. No lies, no missing pieces." Evan nodded, eyes red and hollow. "I'll tell you everything." Logan hit record. Evan inhaled slowly, as if the truth itself were a physical burden. His name is Carter Briggs, used to run dogs on the outskirts of Silverpine. Didn't start out cruel, but lately, it's like something snapped. He's been breeding and selling untrained shepherds to people who have no business owning them. Drug runners, people out of state. Worse. And when the dogs weren't useful, he dumped them. Logan's jaw hardened. And Axel's mother? Evan stared at the table. She was smarter than the rest, stronger. He tried to use her to lure canine units off patrol routes, thought she'd distract them with scent. But she figured him out, bit through the cage, got out early, found him with the pups. He panicked and used the tarp to drag her out. I heard the fight from my cabin. By the time I got there, she'd broken free. She ran. He chased. Then he left her. That cliff. She must have run until she couldn't anymore. Axel let out a soft, aching whine, nudging Logan's boot. Logan reached down and rested his hand gently on the pup's head. You did good, buddy. He turned back to Evan. Why cover it up? Evan closed his eyes. Because Carter isn't just some rogue, he's protected. People here buy from him, even people with badges. I thought if the truth came out, the town would tear itself apart. And I didn't want Axel to suffer more than he already had. Logan clicked off the recorder. You still let a puppy bury his own mother in the snow. Evan didn't argue. He didn't have to. Logan stepped into the hallway just as Chief Rowan approached, face tight. I heard the initial report. You got a confession? Logan squared his shoulders. We have enough to open a full investigation into Carter Briggs. Evan isn't the threat. He's the key witness. Rowan hesitated. The kind of hesitation that carried history, fear, and politics. Logan, Briggs has friends in county offices. You dig into this, things could get ugly. Logan looked down at Axel, who rested one small paw on the threshold of the doorway, as if already ready to step forward. Things already got ugly, Chief. We just didn't see it. Rowan studied him, then exhaled. All right, do it right. No shortcuts. Bring him in clean. For the first time since the storm began, something steady shifted inside Logan. Permission. Not victory, but momentum. The investigation unfolded fast. Within hours, Logan gathered deputies he trusted. Not many, but enough. They combed through Evan's statement, cross-checked sightings of Carter's truck, and pulled old complaints that had been dismissed too quickly. Pieces lined up like a trail waiting to be followed. Axel stayed near Logan the whole time, weaving between officers' legs, sniffing papers, perking up whenever a new lead formed. It wasn't random. The pup reacted strongest whenever Carter's name came up, as if he recognized the sound of danger. By late afternoon, Rowan stood before the entire station, face grim. We're making this official. Carter Briggs is now wanted for animal cruelty, illegal breeding, and obstruction of justice. News traveled faster than snowmelt. By evening, Silverpine had erupted. People gathered outside the station carrying blankets, crates, old photos of missing pets. Some cried, some shouted, some demanded answers. The air buzzed with anger and heartbreak, but for once, no one aimed that anger at Logan. Instead, they aimed it where it belonged. Inside, Logan reviewed the map one last time. Carter had a hideout deeper in the woods, a forgotten barn, too remote for accidents, perfect for hiding something ugly. We're going after him, Rowan said behind him. Logan turned. I'm ready. Axel barked once, sharp and certain. Rowan blinked. You're taking the puppy? Logan glanced down at Axel. He found the cliff. He found the truth. And he knows Carter's scent better than any of us. Rowan opened his mouth to protest, but the determination in Axel's stance was undeniable. The pup wasn't afraid. He was waiting. The chief shook his head in disbelief. Then let's move. A convoy formed. Patrol trucks lined up outside the station, headlights cutting through the thinning storm. People watched through frosted windows, grateful someone was finally fighting back. Logan lifted Axel into the passenger seat of his vehicle. "You ready to finish this?" Axel pressed his forehead against Logan's palm, then turned to the windshield, eyes locked forward. A soldier in a tiny body. The drive into the woods was silent, heavy with purpose. Snow crunched under tires as they followed the narrow, unplowed path toward the abandoned barn. When they stopped, Axel was the first to move. He leapt from the truck, nose to the ground, tracking with practiced intensity. Logan followed close behind, rifle slung but safety on. The other deputies fanned out. Then Axel froze. A low growl rolled from deep in his chest, the kind that didn't belong to a puppy, but to something older, inherited from a line of protectors. Logan raised his flashlight. A shadow moved behind the barn. Carter Briggs stepped out, pale under the moonlight, hands trembling. But not with fear of Logan. His eyes were fixed on Axel. That dog should have died with the rest. Axel lunged before Logan could catch him, teeth bared in a raw, instinctive charge. Logan grabbed him mid-air, holding him tight as the pup writhed with a fury born from memory. Logan glared at Carter. "You're done hurting anything." Carter took one step back. "You think anyone's going to believe the word of a scared little puppy?" Logan nodded towards the ridge behind them. "He already led us to the body. Your tarp was there too." Carter's face drained of color. Deputies closed in. Carter didn't fight. He just stared at Axel with disgust, as if the pup himself had betrayed him. In a way, Axel had. He'd survived. As deputies cuffed Carter and read him his rights, Logan set Axel down. The pup walked forward carefully, stopping just a few feet from the man who had shattered his world. Carter shifted back instinctively. Axel didn't growl this time. He simply looked at him. Steady, knowing, unbroken. Logan whispered, "Justice is yours too, little guy." When they returned to town, people lined the streets despite the cold. Word had spread fast. Someone cheered, someone cried, someone reached out to pet Axel as he passed, calling him brave. For the first time since Logan had found him on the snowy roadside, Axel lifted his tail and wagged it. Not wildly, just enough. The healing had begun. A year can change the shape of a town. Snow still fell over Silverpine, soft and heavy, but it no longer felt like a blanket smothering something rotten. It felt like a roof being rebuilt, a door being opened, a wound finally closing. Logan saw it every morning when he stepped out onto the porch, people walking their dogs without fear, kids playing near the tree line again, porch lights burning brighter than before. And beside him on that porch stood Axel, no longer a fragile pup following a patrol car out of desperation, but a full-grown German shepherd with muscle, intelligence, and a quiet fire in his eyes. He had become exactly what he was meant to be, a survivor with purpose. Logan reached down, brushing a glove over Axel's neck. "Ready?" Axel didn't bark. He didn't need to. He simply nudged the patrol truck door with his nose, hopped in, and waited for Logan to start the engine. The bond between them had grown into something wordless and steady, like two branches from the same scarred tree. Their patrol route took them through the places where darkness once lived, the ravine where Axel had howled for his mother, the abandoned barn where Carter Briggs was arrested, the thin road where Logan had first found Axel half frozen in the snow. Now the ravine held a warning sign and a flower bed planted by school children. The barn had been torn down to nothing but a frame, swallowed by grass. And the roadside where Axel once collapsed had become a small wooden marker carved with a single phrase. Every life saved starts with a voice. Axel always paused there, just for a breath, as if remembering the moment everything changed. Back at the station, younger officers often gathered around him, tossing him tennis balls or scratching the patch of fur between his shoulders. Axel tolerated none of it. Unless Logan was nearby, he kept his distance. Not aggressive, just selective. Loyal in a way that wasn't cute, but earned. One rookie whispered to Logan, "He treats you like you're his whole world." Logan smiled. He saved mine first. But the biggest change of all stood deep in the woods, beyond the usual paths. It had taken months to build, even longer to emotionally finish. Logan parked at the trailhead and whistled softly. Axel jumped out, tail steady, gait confident. They followed the narrow trail through the trees until the air opened into a small clearing. The old cabin sat there, once a place of fear and hiding, now transformed. The rot was gone. The broken windows had been replaced. Inside, the walls no longer smelled of panic, but of cedar, varnish, and quiet respect. A wooden sign hung above the doorway. Canine Memorial Corner. Logan had built it piece by piece on his days off. Cut the planks, sanded the beams, repaired the stone hearth. He had done it partly to honor Axel's mother, partly to give the town a place to face what had once been ignored, and partly because something inside him needed to fix what had been left broken for too long. Axel trotted ahead, pushing the door open with his shoulder. The room glowed with warm lantern light. Shelves lined the walls, each holding photos of K9 partners from Silver Pines, past, dogs whose service had been forgotten when years blurred their names. Tags hung from hooks, old collars lay in shadow boxes, a quilt stitched with the faces of retired partners draped across a wooden bench, and in the center of the far wall stood a single display, a repaired collar, the one Logan had found at the bottom of the ravine, the one that belonged to Axel's mother. He'd cleaned the blood, restored the leather, reattached the broken buckle. Above it hung a small brass plate, Lunar Protector. Mother. Never surrendered her young. Axel walked to it slowly. No fear now, no trembling. He sat at the base of the display, lifted his head, and breathed in deeply, like the air still carried her scent. Logan leaned against the doorway, the cold behind him fading as the warmth of the memorial filled the space. "She'd be proud of you," he murmured. Axel didn't look back, but his ears flicked. He heard every word. For a moment the cabin fell into a deep, reverent silence. Not empty, not hollow, more like the forest itself was holding its breath, a silence of acknowledgement, of memory, of healing. Outside, the wind brushed through the pines with a softer voice than the storms of the year before. Snow drifted past the doorway in gentle spirals. Logan stepped up beside Axel. "You know, this place was once used to hide the worst parts of this town. Now it holds the best." Axel nudged Logan's knee. A simple touch, but it carried more meaning than any spoken reply. When they walked back out, Logan closed the door gently behind them. "The past stays honored," he said, "but it doesn't get to own us anymore." The path ahead was brighter. Snowflakes clinged to Axel's fur as he bounded ahead, turning every few seconds to make sure Logan was still following. For the first time in a long time, Logan didn't feel like he was chasing a mystery or outrunning a shadow. He was simply walking beside a survivor who'd chosen him when the world gave him nothing else. In Silver Pine, peace had returned, not because evil disappeared, but because the smallest voice, a trembling puppy in a snowstorm, refused to stop leading them toward the truth. Winter approached again, but this time Silver Pine greeted it without fear. The air was crisp, clean, and calm. Snow coated the rooftops like frosting instead of shrouds, and in the center of it all, Axel moved through the cold with the confidence of a dog who had survived the worst and chosen to rise beyond it. Training him for search and rescue had not been part of Logan's original plan. It simply happened. Axel had the instinct long before he had the title. He tracked effortlessly, read the wind better than seasoned handlers, and sensed distress before humans realized anything was wrong. All Logan had done was give those instincts a direction. The certification day felt less like a test and more like a confirmation. Axel completed every scenario flawlessly, weaving through simulated rubble, picking up faint, scent trails, and alerting Logan with precise, sharp signals. When the instructor handed Logan the official K9 search and rescue vest, Axel sat proudly, tail sweeping through the snow. The instructor chuckled. He's not just ready. He's built for this. Logan knelt, fastening the vest around Axel's shoulders. You earned this, buddy. Axel pressed his forehead to Logan's chest, the same small gesture he used the first night he'd trusted him. A week later, the call came. A 9-year-old boy named Tyler had wandered off during a winter camping trip with his family. By the time the sheriff alerted them, night had already rolled in and temperatures were dropping below zero. Logan didn't hesitate. Axel didn't either. They drove out to the trailhead where deputies and frantic parents waited. The mother rushed toward Logan, eyes wide with fear. Please find him. Logan nodded once. We'll bring him home. Axel lowered his head to the boy's jacket left behind for scenting. He sniffed once, twice, then whipped his head towards the dense tree line and started moving. Not running, tracking, sure and focused. Branches snapped under their boots as Logan followed. Axel zigzagged through the forest, nose close to the ground, tail stiff with purpose. The cold bit hard, but Axel didn't waver. He pushed deeper into the darkness, into places Tyler's small feet had panicked through. Minutes stretched out like hours. Then suddenly Axel stopped. He lifted his muzzle, ears pointing sharply downslope. A narrow ravine split the trees. One Logan wouldn't have seen without Axel's warning. The dog let out a low bark, not urgent, not frantic, but precise. Logan aimed his flashlight. Tyler. The boy was curled at the base of the ravine, shivering violently, lips pale, barely conscious. Snow clung to his eyelashes. Logan slid down carefully. I'm here, kid. You're okay. Tyler didn't respond, but his eyes flickered at Axel, whose soft whine cut through the cold like a promise. The rescue team arrived minutes later and carried Tyler out. His mother collapsed into tears when she saw him alive, her hands trembling as she cupped Logan's face. Thank you. Thank you. But she was looking at Axel when she said it again, whispering it into his fur as he stood patiently beside her. By morning, the entire town had heard the story. Silver Pine Elementary invited Logan and Axel to speak to the students. At first, Logan wasn't sure how to feel about standing in front of a room full of kids. Police work wasn't usually the stuff of elementary assemblies, but Axel made the decision for him. When they arrived, the dog marched into the gym as if he owned the place. Dozens of kids gasped the moment they saw him. There he is. That's the rescue dog. Mom said he saved the boy before anyone else found the tracks. Logan stood at the front with Axel sitting tall beside him. All right, settle down. I'm here to tell you a story. Not about me. About him. He placed a hand on Axel's back. A year ago, I found this little guy in the snow. He was starving, scared, and he had every reason not to trust anyone. But he didn't give up. He didn't stop searching, and because he kept fighting, he led us to a truth that saved lives. The kids leaned in, elbows on knees, their breath held like the story itself was a spell. Logan continued. Today he's a search and rescue dog, but he didn't get here because he was special. He got here because he refused to stop trying, and because he remembered the ones he lost. Quiet swept the gym. Not sad. Respectful. A small girl in the front row raised her hand. Officer Pierce. Why does he look sad when you say, remember? Logan glanced at Axel. The dog was staring off toward the bleachers, calm but distant, as if hearing some old echo from the forest. "Because some memories are heavy," he said gently. "But carrying them is how we protect others." A teacher stepped forward afterward with tears in her eyes. This town needed this story. "Thank you." Logan shook his head. "Don't thank me. Thank him." When they walked out to the parking lot, Axel hesitated at the doorway of the school. Kids were still waving through the windows, calling his name, shouting promises to be brave like him. The dog tilted his head as if absorbing every voice, every small reminder that he had become more than a survivor. He had become a symbol. Back home, Logan watched Axel settle into his bed near the fireplace. The flames painted gold across his coat, the same coat that once trembled in the snow. "You've come a long way," Logan murmured. Axel didn't answer. He simply rested his head on his paws, eyes steady, knowing. He knew the forest. He knew loss. He knew purpose. And now, Silverpine knew him. The legacy of a mother who refused to surrender had taken root in her son, a shepherd who turned pain into service, grief into guidance, and instinct into something larger than both man and dog. A quiet hero, leaving footprints in the snow for the next lost soul to follow. The wind coming off the Silverpine Ridge carried the smell of pine and cold river water. Winter had begun to thaw, leaving patches of green breaking through the last layer of snow. It was the kind of day the town once feared, the kind that reminded them of everything they had lost. But now it felt different. Today was the opening of the Silverpine Canine Rescue Center. People filled the front lawn, bundled in jackets, scarves, and cautious hope. Children held small flags with Axel's paw print logo. Reporters stood behind taped lines. Even the sheriff, who rarely appeared at public events, stood near the podium with a quiet pride he didn't bother hiding. Logan stood at the center of it all, one gloved hand resting on Axel's back. Axel was no longer the trembling puppy found on a frozen roadside. He was a full-grown German shepherd now, broad-shouldered, sharp-eyed, and impossibly calm. His black and tan coat gleamed under the afternoon sun. He wore a new search and rescue vest with his name stitched in gold thread. A photographer approached. "Mind if I get a picture?" Axel sat instinctively, posture perfect. The crowd laughed softly. The camera clicked. Someone whispered, "He knows he's the star." And he was. People didn't gather here because of a new building. They came because a story had changed their town, because a once-forgotten puppy had fought his way into their hearts, because hope, when carried on 4 paws, felt easier to believe in. A reporter from Channel 4 raised her hand. "Officer Pierce, one question before we begin the ribbon cutting." Logan nodded. "Go ahead." She stepped forward, her voice clear enough for the microphones. "Why did you keep Axel with you through everything? You could have turned him over to animal services. You could have adopted him out. Why stay with him?" For a moment, Logan didn't answer. Not because he didn't know, but because saying it out loud carried its own weight. He looked down at Axel. The dog looked up in return, eyes steady, trusting, ready. Logan placed his palm gently on Axel's head. He didn't just survive the storm. He survived the truth no one wanted to face. And somehow, he saved me too. The reporter lowered her mic, expression softening. The entire crowd fell quiet, as if someone had pulled a blanket over the noise. Logan wasn't a man who liked speeches, but something about the weight of this moment, the center, the crowd, Axel sitting tall beside him, made him continue. "I used to think it was our job to save them, the animals, the ones left behind. But this little guy, he taught me it goes both ways. When he followed my patrol car that day, he wasn't just looking for help. He was leading me toward something I wasn't brave enough to face on my own." He turned toward the camera, eyes steady. "What's your story with a loyal pet?" It wasn't a slogan. It wasn't a line crafted for media attention. It was an invitation, a memory, a truth. The wind shifted over the ridge, brushing through the branches, carrying a faint, almost tender warmth. People looked up instinctively. Logan did too, and for a heartbeat, the world grew still, as if something unseen had slipped between the trees. A presence, a blessing, the kind of quiet only a mother who had given everything could leave behind. Axel's ears twitched. He lifted his head toward the ridge, tail giving one slow, purposeful wag. Not happy. Not excited. Acknowledging. Logan felt it too. A goodbye carried on the wind. Beside the memorial wall behind the center, the repaired collar of Luna, Axel's mother, hung in a glass case. A few onlookers drifted toward it, their footsteps hushed. Someone whispered, "She'd be proud." The ceremony continued. The ribbon was cut. People applauded. Kids lined up to meet Axel, who tolerated their hugs with surprising patience. Deputies toured the new kennels and training areas. Donations filled the boxes faster than volunteers could sort them. But Logan drifted away from the noise. He stood near the tree line, watching Axel sniff the ground, tail moving gently like he was searching for one last echo of the past before stepping into the future. Then Axel returned to Logan's side, nudging his leg, ready to go home. Logan looked down. "You led us through the worst. I guess now we get to build the best." Axel nudged him again. They walked back toward the center together, their shadows long on the snow. Behind them, the ridge wind whispered its final farewell, soft and proud. In front of them, Silver Pine waited, safer, warmer, and forever changed, because a little German shepherd refused to stop following hope. "If you're watching this," Logan's voice echoed in the closing narration, "remember one thing. Heroes don't always walk on two legs. And if you've ever had a pet who saved you in ways no one else could, tell us, share your story, and join us by supporting the German Shepherd channel, where stories of loyalty, courage, and healing live on." Axel lifted his head to the camera one last time. Not barking, not posing, just looking, as if saying, "I'm still here, still guarding, still leading the way."